Captain Jack Reynolds stared at the massive Imperium battlecruiser through the viewscreen of his small vessel, the Relentless. The Imperial ship's sleek silver hull gleamed against the backdrop of stars, nearly 20 times the size of his own craft. Weapon ports lined its flanks like rows of deadly teeth. "How long until they detect us?" he asked, voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Lisa, his second in command, checked her instruments. 3 minutes at current trajectory. The cloaking field is stable, but this close, their sensors will eventually pick up our heat signature. Jack nodded. This was exactly what they'd been counting on. Humanity had been fighting the Galactic Imperium for nearly 15 years. The massive empire, spanning thousands of star systems, had discovered Earth just as humans had begun their first tentative steps into interstellar travel. To the ancient Imperium, humans were merely another primitive species to subjugate or eliminate. They'd chosen elimination. Earth was now a barren rock, its surface glassed by Imperium bombardment. The survivors, barely 2 million humans, had scattered across the stars in whatever ships could escape. For 15 years, they'd lived as refugees, struggling to survive while the Imperium hunted them to extinction. But humanity had one advantage the Imperium never expected: desperation. "Begin power-up sequence," Jack ordered. "Full diversion to the gravitational matrix." Tom, the ship's engineer, looked up from his station, face pale. "Captain, if we initiate at this distance, we might not survive the feedback." "We knew the risks when we volunteered," Jack replied. 2 million lives depend on us proving this works." The Relentless wasn't a warship. It was a testbed. Hidden aboard what appeared to be a retrofitted cargo hauler was humanity's last hope. The gravity inversion drive, a theoretical weapon conceived by Dr. Marcus Freeman, the lone survivor of Earth's premier physics research facility. For 3 years, the remnants of humanity had poured their dwindling resources into building it. The science was sound, but untested. If it worked, it would change everything. If it failed, well, Jack and his crew of 12 would simply join the billions already dead. 1 minute to detection, Lisa announced. Jack opened the ship-wide comm. "All hands, secure for gravitational distortion. This is what we trained for." Around him, the crew strapped themselves into acceleration harnesses. Medical Officer Kate moved through the bridge, distributing anti-nausea medication. Theoretical models suggested the human body could withstand the distortion, but theory and practice often diverged. "Engine room reports ready," Tom said. "Matrix at 90% charge." Through the viewscreen, Jack watched the Imperium ship, growing larger. Its weapon systems remained dormant. They hadn't been detected yet. The massive vessel continued its patrol route, oblivious to the tiny human ship carrying a technology that could rewrite the rules of space warfare. 30 seconds, Lisa called out. Jack took a deep breath. He thought of Earth, of the billions who had died. Of his family in Chicago, vaporized in the first wave of attacks. Of how the Imperium had dismissed humans as insignificant, barely worth the effort to exterminate. Power signatures spiking on the Imperium vessel, the sensor operator called. "They've spotted us." The massive battlecruiser began to turn, weapon ports glowing with deadly energy. Jack tightened his harness. "Initiate gravity inversion drive. Now." Tom pushed the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to bend. The space between the Relentless and the Imperium battlecruiser distorted visibly, light stretching and warping as fundamental forces were manipulated in ways never before attempted. Jack felt his stomach lurch as gravity around them fluctuated wildly. The Imperium ship fired, but the energy beams curved impossibly around the Relentless, drawn into the growing gravitational anomaly between the vessels. "It's working!" Dr. Freeman shouted from his station, voice filled with wonder and disbelief. "The Matrix is stable." As the crew of the Relentless watched in awe, the massive Imperium battlecruiser began to crumple, as if being crushed by an invisible fist. The Imperium battlecruiser's hull groaned under impossible pressures as the gravity inversion drive reached full power. Metal twisted and buckled, the once proud vessel folding in on itself like paper in a vacuum. Emergency lights flashed across its surface as the crew desperately tried to counter the unknown weapon assaulting them. Inside the Relentless, Jack and his crew fought their own battle against disorientation and nausea as space warped around them. The protective fields Dr. Freeman had designed were holding, barely. Structural integrity at 60%, Tom reported through gritted teeth, fighting to keep his eyes focused on his instruments. The drive is consuming power faster than projected. Dr. Freeman's fingers flew across his console. Compensating. The effect is more intense than our simulations predicted. On the view screen, the Imperium vessel's fate was sealed. With a final shudder that seemed to ripple through space-time itself, the massive battlecruiser imploded, collapsing into a dense mass no larger than a shuttle. The gravitational anomaly dissipated, leaving behind only floating debris and the compressed remains of what had been one of the Imperium's most formidable warships. Stunned silence filled the bridge of the Relentless. "My God," Lisa whispered. "It actually worked." Jack allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before reality reasserted itself. Damage report. Hull integrity holding at 85%, Tom said. Drive systems operational but strained. We'll need at least 12 hours before we can generate another field of that magnitude. Communications? Jack asked. Functional, the comms officer replied. Ready to transmit the test data. Jack nodded. Send the encrypted package to Admiral Reyes. Include all sensor readings and Dr. Freeman's notes. The implications were staggering. A small human vessel had just destroyed an Imperium battlecruiser, a feat previously requiring an entire battle group. The gravity inversion drive had proven itself more powerful than even its creator had anticipated. Captain, Lisa said quietly, they'll come looking for us now. Jack nodded grimly. That was always the plan. We're the bait. While the Relentless had been testing the weapon, the scattered human fleet had been gathering in secret, preparing for their first coordinated strike since Earth's fall. Admiral Reyes had coordinated the operation meticulously. The Relentless would demonstrate the weapon's effectiveness, then lead Imperium forces into a carefully planned ambush. Navigation, Jack ordered. Set course for the Arcturus debris field, maximum speed. The helmsman complied, and the stars on the view screen blurred as the ship accelerated away from the destruction they'd caused. In the hours that followed, the crew worked frantically to repair what damage they could. The drive had taken a toll on the ship's systems, and despite their preparations, several critical components had been stressed beyond their design tolerances. Dr. Freeman hardly left his station, analyzing the test data with growing excitement. The compression effect exceeded projections by 38%, he told Jack during a brief break. If we can refine the field harmonics, we might be able to increase efficiency by another 20%. Will that reduce the strain on our systems? Jack asked. Freeman nodded. Theoretically. The problem isn't the power requirement. It's controlling the field boundaries. With better control algorithms, we could achieve the same effect with less energy bleed. Outside the ship, space itself carried the news of what had happened. The Imperium's vast communication network lit up with urgent transmissions as commanders reported the impossible. A lone human vessel had destroyed an Imperial battlecruiser with an unknown weapon. 6 hours after the test, long-range sensors detected what they'd been expecting, a response fleet. 3 Imperium cruisers and their escort vessels, converging on the Relentless's position. They're following us, Lisa confirmed. Exactly as planned. Jack studied the tactical display. Time to intercept? At current speeds, approximately 7 hours, she replied. Our drive will be ready for another activation by then, but we won't use it, Jack finished. Not until we've led them into the ambush. As the Relentless raced toward the Arcturus debris field, its crew prepared for the next phase of the operation and for the first real battle humans had initiated since the fall of Earth. The Arcturus debris field sprawled across millions of kilometers of space, the remnants of a shattered moon that had been destroyed during one of the Imperium's many expansion campaigns. Massive chunks of rock drifted amid clouds of smaller fragments, creating a treacherous maze of natural obstacles, perfect for an ambush. The Relentless slowed as it approached the field, maneuvering carefully between the larger asteroids. Jack studied the tactical display, where 12 blinking points represented the hidden human vessels waiting in strategic positions throughout the debris. Imperium pursuers maintaining course and speed, Lisa reported. They'll enter the debris field in approximately 20 minutes. Jack nodded. Send the recognition signal. A brief, encrypted burst transmission pulsed from the Relentless, confirming to the hidden fleet that the operation was proceeding as planned. Acknowledgements flickered on the tactical display as each ship received the signal. "All ships report ready, Captain," the communications officer announced. "Good." Jack turned to Dr. Freeman. "What's the status of our drive?" The scientist looked up from his station, eyes bloodshot from hours of continuous work. "Operational, but I've implemented the refinements I mentioned. Field control should be improved by roughly 15%. Will that be enough to handle multiple targets?" Freeman hesitated. "Theoretically, yes. The field can be shaped to encompass several vessels, though the effect will be less intense the more we spread it." Jack considered this information. The original plan called for the hidden fleet to emerge and engage the Imperium ships traditionally, while the Relentless used its revolutionary weapon on a single target. But if they could catch multiple enemy vessels in the field at once— Change of plans, he decided. "Navigation. Take us deeper into the debris field. I want the largest concentration of asteroids between us and the entry point." The helmsman complied, guiding the ship further into the maze of tumbling rocks. "What are you thinking, Jack?" Lisa asked quietly. "If we can lure all 3 cruisers into a confined space, we might be able to take them out at once," he explained. "The debris will funnel them into narrower formation." Lisa frowned. "That's not the plan we agreed on with Admiral Reyes." "Plans change when opportunities present themselves," Jack replied. "Signal the fleet. Tell them to hold position until my mark." The Relentless found its hiding place, a hollow within a cluster of massive asteroids, creating a natural chamber, large enough to conceal the ship while providing multiple escape routes. "Kill all non-essential systems," Jack ordered. "Passive sensors only." The ship grew darker as systems powered down. Only the soft glow of emergency lighting and essential displays remained, and the ever-present hum of the engines faded to silence. In the new quiet, Jack could hear the nervous breathing of his crew. They waited. 20 minutes later, the sensor operator whispered, "Imperium vessels have entered the debris field. 3 cruisers, 8 escort vessels. They've deployed search patterns." On the tactical display, Jack watched the enemy formation split into 3 groups, each centered around one of the cruisers. They were being cautious, moving slowly through the debris, scanning constantly for their prey. "They're spreading out too much," Lisa murmured. "We'll never get all 3 cruisers in range simultaneously." Jack studied the display, mind racing. The Imperium commanders were being smarter than anticipated, minimizing their vulnerability by maintaining distance between their groups. Then he saw it, a solution. "Tom," he said to the engineer, "can we use the drive to affect the asteroids themselves?" Tom blinked in surprise. "You mean weaponize the debris?" "Exactly." Dr. Freeman leaned forward. "Yes," he said slowly. "If we create a gravity well at the right point, we could destabilize the entire field in this sector. Pull the larger rocks toward a central point." "Creating a chain reaction," Jack finished. "The Imperium ships would be caught in it." Freeman nodded. "But we'd need to be at a safe distance. If we're too close when it happens, we'll be crushed too," Jack acknowledged. "Navigation. Plot a course that will take us clear of the field. Maximum acceleration on my mark." As the helmsman prepared the escape route, Jack opened a channel to the hidden fleet. "This is Reynolds. Change of plans. All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance from the debris field. The Relentless will initiate Operation Avalanche." Admiral Reyes's voice crackled over the comm. "Avalanche wasn't authorized, Reynolds. It's a theoretical contingency only." "It's our best option now," Jack insisted. "Trust me, Admiral. We've seen what this drive can do." A long pause. Then, "Understood. Fleet withdrawing to safe distance. Good luck, Relentless." Jack turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Prepare for emergency acceleration." As the crew secured themselves, Jack watched the tactical display. The Imperium search groups continued their methodical patterns, unaware of what was about to happen. "All systems ready, Captain," Lisa reported. Jack took a deep breath. "Execute." The Relentless burst from its hiding place, engines flaring to maximum thrust. Instantly, alarms blared across the Imperium vessels as they detected the sudden movement. The nearest search group, 1 cruiser and 3 smaller escorts, immediately changed course to intercept. Enemy vessels in pursuit, Lisa announced calmly. Weapons charging. Time to minimum safe distance? Jack asked. 3 minutes, 17 seconds, the navigator replied. Jack nodded. Tom, Dr. Freeman, prepare the drive for activation. Target coordinates at the center mass of the debris field. As the scientists worked, Jack watched the tactical display. The first shots from the pursuing vessels lanced through space, missing. The relentless, but coming dangerously close. The human ship weaved through the asteroid field, using the natural obstacles as shields against the Imperium weapons. Their other search groups are converging, Lisa warned. They'll have us surrounded. In 4 minutes. We only need 3, Jack replied, then opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, prepare for extreme maneuvers. This is going to get rough. The Relentless bucked as a glancing hit struck its aft shields. Warning lights flashed across engineering. Stations. Shields at 70%, Tom reported. That was just a destroyer's cannon. If the cruiser connects... It won't, Jack assured him. Helm. Pattern Delta 6. The ship responded instantly, diving beneath a tumbling asteroid and executing a series of rapid directional changes that no Imperium targeting computer could predict. Behind them, one of the pursuing destroyers misjudged its turn and collided, with a massive rock exploding in a brief, brilliant flash. 2 minutes to safe distance, the navigator called out. On the tactical display, Jack watched as all 3 Imperium cruisers and their remaining escorts converged toward the center of the debris field, exactly where the Relentless was leading. Them. Drive charged to 85%, Dr. Freeman reported. Ready on your command. Jack studied the positions of the enemy vessels. They were forming a rough sphere around the projected exit point, waiting to catch the Relentless as it emerged from the densest part of the field. 1 minute 30 seconds, the navigator announced. Another hit rocked the ship, more powerful this time. Cruiser's main battery, Tom called out. Shields at 40%. Jack gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. Maintain course. The Relentless burst through a cloud of smaller fragments, momentarily clear of the larger asteroids. Ahead lay open space, and behind them, the Imperium vessels closing like a net. 1 minute to safe distance, the navigator said. Drive at 92%, Dr. Freeman added. Optimal parameters achieved. Jack opened a channel to the hidden fleet. Admiral, confirm your ships are at safe distance. Confirmed, Relentless, came the reply. All vessels outside projected effect radius. 30 seconds, the navigator called. The tactical display showed the Imperium forces fully committed to the pursuit now. All vessels converging behind the Relentless as it cleared the last major obstacles. They had taken the bait completely. 15 seconds. The ship rocked as another hit landed. Shields at 23%, Tom reported. One more direct hit from the cruiser and we're done. 10 seconds. Jack kept his eyes fixed on the tactical display, watching the final moments of the trap. Closing. The Imperium vessels, eager for the kill, had positioned themselves perfectly, clustered together at the edge of the debris field, surrounded by countless asteroids of all sizes. Clear, the navigator shouted as they passed the calculated safety threshold. Now, Jack ordered. Activate the drive! Dr. Freeman's fingers flew across his console. The gravity inversion drive hummed to life, power flowing through the ship's systems. But unlike their first test, the Relentless wasn't directing the field at an enemy vessel. Instead, the gravitational distortion blossomed at the precise center of the debris field, directly amid the pursuing Imperium fleet. Space warped visibly, light bending around a rapidly forming gravity well. For a second, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with terrifying acceleration, the asteroids throughout the field began to move, all drawn toward the artificial singularity created by the drive. The Imperium vessels attempted to react, engines flaring as they tried to escape the sudden gravitational pull. But they had positioned themselves too perfectly for the trap. Massive rocks slammed into ships, shields flaring and failing under impacts they were never designed to withstand. It's working, Lisa whispered. On the view screen, they watched as the entire sector of the debris field collapsed inward, thousands of asteroids converging into a chaotic, deadly maelstrom. Caught in the middle, the Imperium vessels fought desperately, against physics itself, and lost. One by one, the blips on the tactical display winked out as ships were crushed between colliding asteroids or torn apart by gravitational shear. All enemy vessels destroyed, Lisa reported, voice tinged with awe. Operation Avalanche successful. As they watched, the artificial gravity well began to stabilize, the drive's effect creating a new, dense cluster where the debris field had been. A miniature asteroid with the compressed remains of the Imperium fleet entombed within its core. News of the Arcturus ambush spread through human settlements like wildfire. After 15 years of running and hiding, humanity had scored a decisive victory against the Imperium. More importantly, they had revealed a weapon that could change the fundamental dynamics of the conflict. 3 days after the battle, the Relentless docked at Proxima Station, the largest remaining human outpost. As Jack and his crew disembarked, they were greeted by cheering crowds, refugees who had long since abandoned hope of anything but survival. Admiral Reyes met them at the airlock, her weathered face showing the rare hint of a smile. "Impressive work, Captain Reynolds. Risky, but impressive." "Thank you, Admiral," Jack replied. "The drive performed beyond expectations." "So I see." Reyes gestured for him to walk with her, away from the crowds and into a secure briefing room, where the station's military leadership had gathered. "Dr. Freeman's technology has given us a chance we never thought we'd have. The question is how to use it." Inside the briefing room, various officers and scientists were studying the data from the Relentless. Technical diagrams of the gravity inversion drive filled several displays, while tactical simulations ran on others. Chief Engineer Marcus, head of the station's technical division, looked up from his console. "Captain Reynolds, your ship's telemetry is fascinating. The drive creates localized warping of space-time more efficiently than anything we've ever seen. Can we replicate it?" Reyes asked. Marcus nodded slowly. "With the schematics Dr. Freeman provided, yes. We have the necessary materials to outfit perhaps 5 ships within the next month. Building more would require resources we currently don't have. 5 is enough to start," Reyes decided. The Relentless proved that even a single ship with this technology can devastate an enemy fleet. Jack studied the tactical displays. "The Imperium will adapt quickly. Once they understand what they're facing, they'll develop countermeasures. Which is why we need to strike fast," Reyes agreed. "Hit them before they can prepare." The station's tactical officer, Commander Wilson, stepped forward. "We've identified several high-value targets within range of our current position. Imperium manufacturing centers, shipyards, command hubs. If we could take out even one—" "We need something bigger," Jack interrupted. "Something that will cripple them, not just inconvenience them." All eyes turned to him. "The Imperium Gate Network," he continued. "Their entire empire depends on it for rapid travel between systems. If we could destroy a major hub—" A murmur ran through the room. The Gate Network was the backbone of Imperial power. Massive structures that created stable wormholes between star systems, allowing near-instant travel across vast distances. Without it, the Imperium would be fractured, their forces unable to respond quickly to threats. "The gates are the most heavily defended structures in Imperial space," Commander Wilson objected. "We'd never get close enough." "We wouldn't need to," Jack replied. "Not with the drive. If we could create a gravitational distortion near a gate hub, the resulting space-time disruption would cascade through the connected wormholes." Dr. Freeman, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. "He's right. The gates are stable wormholes, but they're sensitive to gravitational fluctuations. A properly calibrated field could theoretically collapse not just the targeted gate, but any gate connected to it at that moment." Admiral Reyes's eyes narrowed. "How many gates could we affect with one strike?" "Impossible to say precisely," Freeman admitted. "But if we target a major hub during peak transit hours, when hundreds of connections are active simultaneously, the damage could affect a significant portion of their network." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a tactical victory they were discussing. It was a strategic blow that could cripple the entire Imperium. "The Centauri hub," Admiral Reyes said finally. "It's the central junction for their coreward territories, connecting over 30 major systems. More importantly, it's where their central command coordinates fleet movements for this sector." Jack studied the star charts. "It's also heavily defended." "Yes," Reyes acknowledged. "But with what we've learned from your operation at Arcturus, I believe we can create a diversion significant enough to give a single ship, the Relentless, a window of opportunity. The planning continued for hours, strategies forming and evolving as the human leadership dared to consider something they hadn't in 15 years, taking the offensive against their oppressors. When Jack finally returned to his ship, he found his crew already at work on repairs and modifications. They had heard the rumors, understood what was coming. Lisa looked up from a console as he entered the bridge. "So," she said quietly, "we're going after the gates." Jack nodded. "In 3 days, the technical teams will be coming aboard tomorrow to optimize the drive based on the Arcturus data. The crew is ready," she assured him. "After what we saw at Arcturus, they believe we can win now." Jack moved to the view screen, gazing out at the bustling activity of the station. For the first time since Earth fell, humans were moving with purpose beyond mere survival. "It's not about winning yet," he said softly. "It's about showing them we can hurt them, really hurt them. After that, everything changes." The Centauri Gate Hub loomed on the view screen, a massive artificial structure hanging in space like a technological spider at the center of a web. Sleek Imperium vessels moved through the hub's multiple ports, entering the shimmering wormhole, apertures and vanishing, only to emerge instantaneously at destinations dozens or hundreds of light-years away. In the 3 days since their return to Proxima Station, the Relentless had undergone significant modifications. The gravity inversion drive had been refined, its control systems upgraded to allow for more precise field generation. Additional power couplings and heat sinks had been installed throughout the ship to handle the increased energy load. "Status. Report," Jack ordered, as the Relentless maintained its position at the edge of the system, hidden behind the sensor shadow of a gas giant's moon. "All systems nominal," Tom replied from engineering. "Drive modifications integrated successfully. Power capacity increased by 34%. Dr. Freeman, now officially part of the crew, looked up from his station. "Field harmonics are stable. The refinements to the control algorithms should allow us to direct the gravitational distortion with much greater precision." Jack nodded. "Communications?" "Channel open to Admiral Reyes's task force," the communications officer confirmed. "They're in position and awaiting our signal." The plan was audacious. While the Relentless approached the Centauri hub from one vector, a small fleet of conventional human warships would launch an attack on an Imperium patrol base in a neighboring system. The diversionary attack wouldn't cause significant damage, but it would draw away defensive forces from the hub, creating a narrow window of opportunity. "Diversion begins in 3 minutes, Lisa announced, checking the synchronized mission clock. Jack opened the ship-wide comm. "All stations, final preparations. We'll have one chance at this. Once we initiate the drive within range of the hub, we'll have approximately 40 seconds before the gravitational cascade reaches critical levels. After that, space-time distortions will make navigation impossible." He paused, looking around at his crew, men and women who had already achieved the impossible once. "If our calculations are correct, the distortion will collapse the active wormholes and damage the hub's ability to generate new ones. The resulting cascade should affect connected gates throughout the network." "And if our calculations are wrong?" someone asked quietly. Jack met their eyes steadily. "Then we'll have still struck the most significant blow against the Imperium in 15 years of conflict." The mission clock ticked down. When it reached 0, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. The human diversionary fleet engaging. "Imperium forces in the neighboring system. Enemy response detected," the sensor operator reported. "Multiple vessels disengaging from hub defense and moving to intercept our forces." Jack watched as nearly half the defensive screen around the Centauri hub departed, jumping through the gate to reinforce the patrol base under attack. "Now," he ordered. "Take us in." The Relentless emerged from its hiding place, engines at full power as it accelerated toward the hub. For nearly 2 minutes, they remained undetected, the ship's enhanced stealth systems concealing their approach. Then alarms sounded. "We've been spotted," Lisa reported. "Defensive platforms activating. 3 cruisers moving to intercept. Time to optimal position?" 1 minute, 40 seconds. Jack studied the tactical display. "They'll intercept us before we reach the target zone. Tom, prepare for emergency power to engines. We need to outrun them." The engineer nodded grimly, fingers flying across his console as he rerouted power. The Relentless surged forward, pushing past safety limitations as it raced toward its target. Behind them, Imperium weapons opened fire, energy beams cutting through space. "Evasive pattern Gamma," Jack ordered. The ship twisted and juked, the helmsman executing a series of unpredictable maneuvers that made targeting difficult. Still, they couldn't evade everything. Impacts rocked the vessel as glancing hits struck their shields. "Shields at 60%, Tom called out. "Holding for now." 40 seconds to position, the navigator announced. On the view screen, the Centauri hub grew larger. Jack could now clearly see the multiple gate apertures, shimmering, circular distortions in space where the wormholes opened. Even as he watched, ships continued to pass through them, oblivious to what was coming. 30 seconds. Another hit, more severe this time. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. "Shields at 35%, Tom reported. "One more direct hit and they're gone." 20 seconds. The pursuing cruisers were closing rapidly, their superior engines gradually overcoming the Relentless's head start. "Drive status," Jack demanded. "Ready," Dr. Freeman confirmed. Field parameters set for maximum dispersion through wormhole structures. 10 seconds. A massive impact rocked the ship, throwing crew members against their restraints. Alarms wailed. As systems overloaded. "Shields down," Tom shouted over the noise. "Hull breach on Deck 3. Emergency containment active." "Position reached," the navigator called out. Jack didn't hesitate. "Activate the drive! Maximum power!" Dr. Freeman's hands moved across his console, initiating the sequence they had prepared. The gravity inversion drive hummed to life, drawing enormous power from the ship's reactors. Unlike at Arcturus, there was no visible effect at first. The gravitational distortion was precisely tuned, focused not on physical objects but on the fabric of space-time itself, specifically the artificially stabilized wormholes of the gate apertures. "Field established," Freeman reported, voice tight with concentration. "Gravitational wave propagating through nearest aperture." On the view screen, the closest gate aperture flickered, its shimmering surface rippling like water disturbed by a stone. Then, slowly at first, but with increasing speed, the distortion spread to the other gates, transmitted through the connected wormhole network. "It's working," Lisa whispered. The pursuing Imperium cruisers suddenly broke off their attack, their commanders apparently recognizing what was happening. But it was too late. With a silent flash, the first gate collapsed, the wormhole destabilizing catastrophically. Energy cascaded through the hub as the other gates began to fail in rapid succession, each collapse feeding energy back into the system and accelerating the process. "Gravitational shockwave building," Freeman warned. "We need to withdraw immediately. Maximum." "Thrust," Jack ordered. "Get us out of here." The Relentless turned away from the disintegrating hub, engines straining as it accelerated to safety. Behind them, the Centauri hub was coming apart, massive structural failures spreading across the once magnificent installation as the gates it housed collapsed one after another. More concerning was what they couldn't see, the cascading failures, spreading through the wormhole network, affecting gates in distant systems as the gravitational distortion propagated along the established connections. "We've done it," Lisa said, as they reached a safe distance and turned to witness the destruction they had caused. Jack watched the hub's final collapse, the structure breaking apart as the energy released by multiple wormhole collapses tore it to pieces. "No," he corrected her quietly. "We've just begun." 6 months after the destruction of the Centauri hub, Jack stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned human battleship Defiance, watching as a fleet of 17 ships prepared for departure. 3 of them, including his own Relentless, were equipped with improved versions of the gravity inversion drive. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Admiral Reyes said, joining him at the viewport. Jack nodded. "I never thought I'd see this day." The attack on the Centauri hub had exceeded their most optimistic projections. The gravitational cascade had collapsed not just the hub itself, but 27 connected gates across Imperium space. Entire sectors had been cut off from the network, isolating military forces and disrupting supply chains throughout the Empire. More importantly, the psychological impact had been devastating. For the first time in living memory, the Imperium had suffered a significant strategic defeat, not at the hands of another major power, but from the supposedly primitive humans they had dismissed as barely worth exterminating. The latest intelligence suggests the Imperium has withdrawn forces from 14 human-settled systems, Reyes informed him. They're consolidating around their core worlds while they try to rebuild their gate network. And their countermeasures against the drive? Reyes smiled thinly. Our spies report they're still struggling to understand exactly what hit them. They've implemented some gravitational stabilization fields around their remaining gates. But the technology is still experimental and expensive. Jack turned from the viewport to study the tactical display showing the current state of known space. The Imperium still controlled vast territories, but their once seamless domain was now fragmented, communication delays between sectors creating gaps in their once perfect control. The Liberation Fleet is ready, Reyes continued. We'll begin with the Procyon and Tau Ceti colonies. The Imperium presence there has been substantially reduced. It was still hard for Jack to believe how much had changed. In 6 months, humanity had gone from scattered refugees to a coordinated resistance force. Former colonies that had been under Imperium control for years were now rising in rebellion, supplied with weapons smuggled in by ships like the Relentless. Most significantly, 3 other species that had been subjugated by the Imperium had reached out to form alliances with humans, recognizing that the balance of power was shifting. What about Earth? Jack asked quietly, voicing the question that haunted every human survivor. Reyes's expression grew solemn. We've discussed it in the War Council. Once we've secured the outer colonies, Earth will be our priority. She paused. The reconnaissance drones we sent report that the glassing wasn't as complete as we feared. There are still viable regions, and the atmosphere is recovering faster than projected. Hope flickered in Jack's chest for the first time in years. Could it be recolonized? Eventually, Reyes nodded. It would take decades, but yes, our homeworld isn't completely lost. Their conversation was interrupted by a signal from the bridge. The fleet was ready for departure. Jack took one last look at the assembled ships. The first true human battle fleet since Earth's fall. From a scattered, desperate remnant on the edge of extinction, humanity had transformed into a force that made the mighty Imperium tremble. They never expected this, he said softly. They thought they were dealing with primitives, that we'd accept extinction or subjugation like so many others before us. That was their mistake, Reyes replied. They didn't understand what humans do when backed into a corner. As Jack returned to the Relentless, he thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a theoretical weapon designed in desperation to a technology that had changed the balance of power across the galaxy. From prey to predator. From victims to victors. The Imperium had unleashed their full might on Earth, confident they were, eliminating just another insignificant species. They had never imagined that 15 years later, the scattered survivors would return with a weapon that could bring their ancient empire to its knees. As the Liberation Fleet prepared to jump to its first target, Jack settled into his captain's chair, surrounded by the crew that had made history with him. Ready for coordinates, the navigator announced. Jack smiled. Set course for Procyon. It's time to take back what's ours. On the view screen, space distorted as the fleet engaged their drives, disappearing into the darkness between stars, carrying with them humanity's renewed hope and the Imperium's coming reckoning. The mighty Galactic Imperium, ruler of 1,000 worlds, had made one critical mistake. They had expected the humans to die quietly. They never expected this human ship. They never expected humanity would fight back. And they certainly never expected to lose. The end.